We've watched the Roman Republic die and the French monarchy explode. Ancient history, distant revolutions. Now let's turn the lens on ourselves. Modern democratic capitalism, the system that emerged from World War II, spread across the developed world, and declared itself the end of history in 1989. Is it stable? What do the parameters look like? Where are the stresses? This isn't just academic. The answer shapes your life, your investments, your children's future. Let's look at the present through Machiavelli's eyes and Saylor's equations. The period from 1945 to roughly 1980 was, in our model's terms, a remarkably stable democratic equilibrium. Wealth distribution W, compressed. Progressive taxation, strong unions, expanding education, and high growth combined to create the largest middle class in history. The Gini coefficient fell across the developed world. Social norms N, strong. High trust in institutions, belief in progress, shared national identities. Civic participation was high. People joined clubs, voted, trusted their neighbors. Legislative responsiveness, gamma, high. Mass parties aggregated interests. Governments responded to median voters. The welfare state expanded. Redistribution was politically feasible. Executive power, E, constrained. Constitutional limits held. Transitions of power were peaceful. The military stayed in barracks. Production capacity, P, growing rapidly. The post-war boom, the golden age of capitalism, delivered unprecedented prosperity. This combination, moderate W, high N, high gamma, constrained E, growing P, is the sweet spot. The democratic equilibrium was stable because the feedback loops balanced. Growth moderated distributional conflict. Strong norms constrained elite capture. Responsive institutions channeled grievances into policy. It was never perfect. Racism, sexism, Cold War paranoia, colonial legacies. But structurally, the system worked. Since roughly 1980, the parameters have been drifting. Wealth distribution W, rising sharply. The top 1%'s share has more than doubled in the U.S. The middle class has stagnated. Wealth concentration approaches Gilded Age levels in some countries. Social norms. N, declining. Trust in institutions has collapsed. Social cohesion has weakened. Polarization has increased. People increasingly see the other side not as opponents, but as enemies. Legislative responsiveness, gamma, falling. Money dominates politics. Gerrymandering protects incumbents. Gridlock prevents action on obvious problems. Citizens feel the system doesn't represent them. Executive power, E, expanding. Presidents govern by executive order. Emergency powers proliferate. Checks and balances strain under partisan pressure. Production capacity, P, slowing. Productivity growth has declined since the 1970s. The gains that do occur flow disproportionately to the top. Each trend is well documented. What the model adds is the connections, the feedback loops that make these trends reinforce each other. Let's trace the loops. Rising W increases conflict pressure. When the middle class stagnates while the rich thrive, distributional conflict intensifies. This is the fundamental Machiavellian insight. Increased conflict erodes N. Polarization, populism, and distrust are symptoms of a society where the distributional bargain has broken down. When people feel the system is rigged, they withdraw legitimacy. Falling N reduces gamma. When norms weaken, elite capture becomes easier. Money talks louder. Lobbying works better. The political system becomes less responsive to median voters and more responsive to concentrated wealth. Lower gamma means W keeps rising. If the political system can't redistribute, wealth continues concentrating. The rich buy more influence, which they use to prevent redistribution. This is a vicious cycle, a reinforcing loop that the post-war equilibrium kept in check, but that has now broken free. Meanwhile, rising conflict and falling norms create opportunities for political entrepreneurs who promise to break the gridlock. E expands as frustrated citizens support strong men who will get things done. How close are we to a bifurcation? Consider the stress tests. How well do modern democracies absorb shocks? The 2008 financial crisis. The system survived but damaged trust further. Bailouts for banks, austerity for citizens, N fell. W rose as asset prices recovered faster than wages. The COVID pandemic. Emergency powers expanded dramatically. Some democracies handled it well, others revealed deep dysfunction. Supply chains stressed. Inequality widened as remote workers thrived and service workers suffered. Political crises. The January 6th insurrection in the United States. Brexit in the UK. The rise of illiberal leaders in Hungary, Poland, Brazil, India. Each is a probe of the democratic equilibrium's stability. None of these shocks, so far, has tipped a major democracy into autocracy. But each has pushed systems closer to the edge. The basin of attraction appears to be shrinking. The question is whether we're in the period of the Gracchi, when reform is still possible, or the period of Caesar, when the old equilibrium is already gone. What forces are working against the drift? Institutions, courts, constitutions, bureaucracies, and international agreements create friction. They slow the feedback loops. They make capture harder. They preserve some gamma even as political systems degrade. Information. Citizens know more than ever before. Corruption is exposed. Inequality is measured. The Internet, for all its pathologies, makes elite capture visible. Global competition. Democracies compete with autocracies for legitimacy and performance. This creates pressure to deliver for citizens, not just elites. Memory. We remember where the alternative leads. Fascism, communism, and total war are living memory for the oldest generation and recent history for everyone else. This supports N, the norm that democracy is worth preserving. But these stabilizing forces are weakening too. Institutions are attacked. Information is polluted with propaganda and conspiracy. Autocracies demonstrate that economic growth is possible without democracy. And memory fades. The race is between drift toward bifurcation and corrective action to reverse the parameter trends. If the model is right, what should we do? To raise gamma, campaign finance reform, anti-gerrymandering measures, proportional representation, anything that makes the political system more responsive to citizens rather than donors. To lower W, progressive taxation, antitrust enforcement, worker power, universal basic services. The goal isn't perfect equality, it's keeping W below the threshold where conflict spirals. To raise N. This is hardest. Norms aren't legislated. They emerge from shared experiences, trusted institutions, and a sense of common fate. National service, deliberative democracy, local community investment. The answer isn't clear, but the need is urgent. To constrain E. Protect checks and balances. Resist emergency powers that don't sunset. Maintain independent courts, free press, and civil society. The key insight from the model. Early intervention is cheap. If we act now, small changes can preserve the democratic equilibrium. If we wait until we're near the bifurcation point, only radical changes, which may be politically impossible, can save it. Timing matters more than magnitude. The Gracchi couldn't save Rome, but earlier action might have. Let's game out scenarios. Optimistic. A reform coalition emerges. Responsive governments address inequality, restore trust, and strengthen institutions. W stabilizes, N recovers, the democratic equilibrium is preserved. Think New Deal 2.0. Pessimistic. The drift continues. Polarization deepens. A major shock, financial crisis, pandemic, war, climate catastrophe, pushes systems past the bifurcation point. Democracies collapse into competitive authoritarianism or illiberal democracy. Think Weimar. Muddled middle. Democracies neither reform nor collapse. They degrade slowly, lower quality governance, higher inequality, weaker norms, but avoid outright autocracy. Think managed decline, like the late Ottoman Empire. Transformation. The model itself changes. New technology, AI, blockchain, biotech, reshapes the parameters in ways we can't predict. Maybe decentralization obsoletes the nation-state. Maybe surveillance enables total control. Maybe something else entirely. The model can't tell us which scenario will occur. It can tell us what the dynamics are and what interventions might shift the odds. We've applied Saylor's model to the present. The diagnosis: modern democracies are experiencing parameter drift that is destabilizing the post-war equilibrium. Rising W, falling N, declining gamma, expanding E. The feedback loops are vicious, not virtuous. The prognosis: without intervention, bifurcation becomes increasingly likely. We don't know how far away the critical threshold is, but we can see we're moving toward it. The prescription: reverse the parameter drift through policy, responsive institutions, reduced inequality, restored norms, constrained executive power. This completes Module 5, Historical Applications. We've seen the model fit Rome, France, and the present. The patterns recur because the dynamics are fundamental. Next module, Conclusions. We'll step back, assess what the model teaches, acknowledge what it doesn't, and consider where political economy goes from here. The goal was never to predict the future. It was to understand the forces shaping it. Next time, Module 6 begins.